We've just mentioned West Coast and Melbourne in very quick succession, Sam. Take us to Harley Reid, because I know we've had so much talk over the last few weeks about academies and pick swaps and points and all this kind of stuff. Whinging, as it's been put, by the northern states from Victorian clubs, but it seems like the Demons might actually be justified in feeling like they've been a little bit stiffed here. So
there's a few layers to this. So Melbourne last year put on the table for pick 1, pick 6, 11, 42 and their first round pick in this year's draft, which is currently pick 10. It was a very compelling offer, but they were basically handicapped. They could give no more. Now, the AFL is about to tick off 2 years of future trading. If they'd brought that in last year, I think Harley Reid's a demon.
Really?
I mean, you add another first round pick to that offer, West Coast takes it.
Would that have got the job done, do you reckon? That would have got the job done.
Well, you think about it logically. 6, West Coast would have used on Dan Curtin. That's where he went. West Coast loved Dan Curtin as well. 11, I reckon they liked Nate Caddy last year. Colton Throlstrop was a local boy. They could have taken either of those boys. And then a first rounder this year, pick 10, plus a first rounder next year. That's almost too good to pass up. Jason Taylor, the Melbourne recruiter, he loved Harley. He said, if you look over the journey, players like Harley Reid, they are game changers. He's only one player, but we feel that they can really have an impact on the success of a footy club, and that's how hard they went. So I think Melbourne was really stiff there, and then they were stiff the year before as well. So Jamari Ugle-Hagan goes pick 1 in 2020. The AFL overreacts, knee-jerk reaction. They cut off NGA prospects from the top end of the draft. Melbourne misses out on Mac Andrew. Now, this wasn't a token sort of involvement in his development. Mac was hit their first NGA training session as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, so it goes back.
He wasn't in any pathway program. He wasn't good enough to make any sort of state squad until his 18th year when he played for Vic Country. They moulded this kid into an AFL prospect, and by 12 months, they miss out because Gold Coast take him at pick 5. So they've missed out twice.
Well, they've missed out twice, and we know these things typically come in threes when it comes to the negatives. I know you're saying that they're the unluckiest team in the comp now, but could they be more to come? They could potentially miss out on another father-son?
Well, next year, Kalani White, 200-centimetre son of Jeff White. It's his draft year next year. Now, he's lived on the Gold Coast for basically his entire life. He's in Gold Coast Academy.
Oh, no.
So a little bit like
so he's a Queenslander in a sense, isn't he?
North Melbourne, very similar. I mean, Nick Blakey clearly is the son of John Blakey. Grew up in Sydney. John was coaching at the Swans. In Sydney's academy, joined the Swans as an academy prospect. So there is unless the AFL changes the rules, and which is on the table, the fact that they might make father-son players ineligible for academies, they might miss out for a third time, which would be extraordinarily unlucky.
If I'm Hawthorn, I'm getting on the phone straight away, because we know that Luke Hodges'
well, that's right. He's a young fella. I think he's in the under-15s at the moment in the Lions Academy.
Exactly. So I'll be looking out there.
Jonathan Brown's kids, I think they're in the Gold Coast Academy. They're a little bit younger, but there's a few more.
Just on the father-sons you mentioned there's been talk about sort of the matching bids and how that might actually work. It looks like clubs are potentially going to have to pay a fairer price, though, isn't it? Yeah,
the rorts are over. So, look, when Collingwood got Nick Dacos, they gave up 38, 40, 42 and 44. When the Dogs got Jamara Ugle-Hagan, 29, 33, 41, 42, 52, 54. They are junk picks. That's not worth pick 1. It's like emptying your piggy bank with silver coins and walking them out with a stack of $100 notes. It's not. That is the one certainty that's going to come out of this reform, is that you're going to have to pay a fair price. I think the AFL and Ned Guy are working through that at the moment, whether you have to have a pick in the same round, whether it's got to be within 9 selections of the bid, whether you have to give up your future first-round pick, but it's got to change. And there's a legacy effect. I mean, Gold Coast last year matched 4 bids for academy players with a swathe of picks, which were basically, not great picks. But it's given them an arsenal this year because clubs were so keen to get their hands on their picks. Gold Coast not only got the 4 players, but they've got 5 top 30 picks in this year's draft. They've got 7, 8, 27 and 29 this year on the back of their haul last year. So the rort's over. This is about to end finally. Long overdue. Yeah,
I think a few clubs would agree with you there, Sam, from what we're hearing. Macca, we saw that incredibly emotional interview with Christian Petrarca just a few nights ago on AFL 360. You've spoken to Trent Rivers. everyone is talking about who is going to replace this premiership superstar Christian Petrarca, and he actually might be the man.
Yeah, I'm not saying Trent Rivers is Christian Petrarca. I don't think anyone is, but he's going to be the man that's going to fill that void for a period of time. Had a great chat to him during the week, and he attended 20 centre bounce attendances on the weekend against North Melbourne, which was the most out of anyone in Melbourne's team, more than Jack Viney, more than Clayton Oliver. So he's the one. I think supporters from Melbourne have been talking for a long time about getting him in there, and it's taken a long time. We know that the coach sometimes takes a while to get to points, and I think to get him in there is great. But what he is also going to do is he's going to not pester Christian Petrarca, but he's going to speak quite regularly to Christian just to find out a little bit about playing that midfield role and working that. Wants to sit down and go through some vision with him. So I think it's great, and that just actually might bring Christian back into the club a little bit more. We know what happened with Angus Brayshaw and no longer around the club. So I think it's important, isn't it?
Pretty handy tutor to learn off.
Yes.
I would have thought. Christian Petrarca,
sure
of course. They've got a huge game, of course, tomorrow night, 6:30 on Fox. All the coverage will start. Their Friday night lights at the Gabba. Will Ashcroft, it sounds like he's going to be absolutely in the thick of it for the Lions.
Yeah, he is.
Mere months, I suppose, after that ACL. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Well, it is, but they've actually gone slow on him. I think this is a really good move from the Lions. He probably could have played, truth be known, 3 weeks ago, maybe even a little bit.
3 weeks ago?
2 to 3 weeks ago, they probably could have played him. They decided to put the slows on it, which I think is a great move. They had all those ACLs. They had the 4 earlier in the year, so they're being very cautious with it. I love the fact that Chris Fagan has said today, shackles are off. There's no managed time frame or anything like that. We're going to get him out there. He's just going to play. We're not going to.
Good.
Which is, I think, is fantastic, and that's an indication of the work that the Lions have actually put into him to get him back to play. So I'm really looking forward to that. So he's in, and I think that's a great move for Brisbane going forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Levi to come, his younger brother next year.
Yes.
They've got some handy midfielders coming through.
It's pretty frightening, isn't it? Frightening is the prospect of a 400 game milestone. I think for the foundations of the MCG.
Yeah.
And their sort of safety.
Well,
I mean, they survived Taylor Swift, so they've been tested, that's for sure. But obviously, all eyes are pointing towards Scott Pendlebury. Of course, he's been an incredible player for Collingwood and skipper for such a long time. That 400 milestone, he'll be the 6th player to join that elusive club. And you've got some details on just how big it might be.
Just a real quirky little one, this one. He's back this week, which is terrific. He had that problem. So he's back. He's got 6 games to go to become the first Collingwood player in history. Think about that. Collingwood are a foundation club from the VFL all the way back, and no Collingwood player has got there before. No Collingwood player's got close. He is now scheduled to play 6 more games. If he doesn't miss a game, he'll play against Carlton August 3, round 20. Book your tickets. Actually, you can't book your tickets because it's done. I spoke to some people today in regard to what sort of crowd they're expecting there. 95,000 is the predicted part to get. Collingwood Carlton, Pendlebury's 400th game. This is huge. And if they get over 95,000, you're in the vicinity of the 2nd or 3rd highest ever home and away crowd. Now, the highest...
For anyone.
For anyone.
Wow.
It'll be... The record between Collingwood and Carlton's 88,000, so they're going to smash that. But now they're looking at, potentially 95. So that... If they get to 95, it'll be more than the Anzac Days, a little bit over the Anzac Days. So, and the Pies are doing a lot of work, including speaking to a lot of the 5 other 400 gamers and doing a lot of work. Pendles is pretty reluctant. He doesn't want to get involved. You know what he's like, playing it low key. But lots of planning and lots of prep going into what looks like being one of the biggest home and away games on record.
So we'll see you, Dusty, 92,300 and we'll raise you.
That's right.
Good
Hold my
point.
beer. There'll be merchandise. Knowing Scott Pendlebury, there'll be wine. It'll be...
There'll be definitely wine.
The game, I must say, 400, things like milestones, we do these things really, really well.